my song. Let's sing it. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Come on, it's gonna be fucking awesome. You know the words. It's gonna be fucking awesome. That's it, see. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Yeah!
Howdy, everybody. It's me, Woody. Nah, baby. It's me, Jesse Blaze Snider, the Coolest Geek Alive. How are you doing? I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It's been a little up and down. Lots of different little difficulties going on in my life. It's funny doing this, podcast every day because it's like, you can't avoid the reality of, life has its ups and life has its downs. And sometimes you have to record your show when you're in the middle of like fucking calamity and bizarreness. But honestly, everything is largely all heading in the right direction, the right and proper direction. Life is good. I am happy. And, biggest, my kids are healthy. My girl's healthy. My friends are healthy. Things are good. Things are good as long as that is true. And I suppose even if that wasn't true, I'd find a way to get myself into a better attitude about it, because what's the fucking point of dwelling in sadness and darkness all the time? But I wanted to talk today about fucking Kevin Feige. Kevin Feige. I've heard his name pronounced so many different ways. The head of Marvel. Now, for those of you who aren't aware, Marvel, like Pixar, and I believe inspired by Pixar, had a creative brain trust, a collection of people who were working on the Marvel scripts. It was the creative committee. This creative committee, I've talked about this before in other episodes, they were loaded with talent. The least of which, Joe Quesada, who brought in the most recent memory Marvel Renaissance, starting with Marvel Knights in the 2000s or late 90s. I'm trying to remember exactly the year, but Joe Quesada and the people that he brought up, from Brian Michael Bendis and Mark Millar and Ed Brubaker and, oh my God, there's so many people. Jeff Loeb, who was working at Marvel TV, so many different people like Dan Buckley and other behind-the-scenes people who are names that you would know a lot less unless you're really, really deep into comic books like I am. But if I said their names, you'd just be like, who? But maybe a comic book writer, you can go look up Ed Brubaker, you can go read his shit, you can go read Mark Millar's shit. You probably know that, Mark Millar's had some big things like Kick-Ass and whatever else. So, there was a group of comic book writers and comic book editors who loved the source material, and they were looking over the shoulder of the Marvel Studios producers, and they were offering suggestions and guidance. Now, a lot of the suggestions and guidance, I would say, focused primarily on leaving doors open in the Marvel Cinematic Universe for things that the fans of the comics would love to see brought to life on the big screen. At a certain point along the way, when Marvel was sold to Disney, shortly after that, Kevin Feige managed to get rid of the Marvel Creative Committee. And this is one of the biggest mistakes ever made. Biggest mistakes ever made. This creative committee was doing so much good for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I say the reason why the Marvel films were so great and so successful in their connectivity and the building of the stories is directly because of the Marvel Creative Committee, not because of Kevin Feige. Kevin Feige may be a fan. He may have a good idea or two. It wasn't about his good idea or two. It wasn't about his ego. It wasn't about that one motherfucker at the top. It was about the fact that there was a group of people, a group of brilliant people. Joe Quesada is brilliant. Brian Michael Bendis, though he's gotten, sometimes as writers age, sometimes they kind of will lose a little track of themselves and they won't be quite as brilliant and quite as together as they are tomorrow. And that may be true for Brian Michael Bendis today, but still, the foundations of who Brian Michael Bendis is, the world that he helped build, he knows these characters, he knows what the fans are looking for. These are the people you want looking at the material you're putting out, the adapted material you're putting out. There is source material for all of these comic books. And to adapt them willy-nilly, just as, we brought in this writer and they're really great, and they don't have any fucking clue about the source material. Nowadays, they've been hiring people for the past 8 years who specifically are not fans. Because, they wanted some new energy to come in there. It was the stupidest fucking thing ever done. Stupidest fucking thing ever done. The most recent phases of the Marvel Cinematic Universe failed for only one reason. They were poorly conceived. Every single one of them. One of Kevin Feige's first poorly conceived fucking disasters is called Captain Marvel, where he introduced Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel, as the only Captain Marvel. Fans of comics know that the first ever graphic novel was the death of Captain Marvel. The death of Captain Marvel, but that's Captain Marvel. He is the original Captain Marvel. There's been many Captain Marvels in the comics. Genus Vell, his son, written by Peter David and Chris Cross, one of my favorite comics runs that I read as a kid, not even as a kid, as a teenager, growing up, on comics. I loved Captain Marvel, Genus Vell, Captain Marvel's son. I loved that book. Eventually, they gave the mantle of Captain Marvel to Miss Marvel, who was essentially a sidekick supporting character to Captain Marvel. Most fans of the comics always liked Miss Marvel. She was a cool character. She ended up on the Avengers eventually, and she was a cool supporting character. But when they decided to put a spotlight on her and raise her up to Captain Marvel, in the comics, they never really landed. They just never were able to get her to the place where they wanted to get her. I read most of those books. Brian Reed, I think, was the person who had been writing it at the time. There was a book by him, which was Miss Marvel, and I was reading that and enjoying it. It was okay. It was an okay book, but it wasn't out of this world. The sales suffered. Not a lot of people read it, but I was reading it. I enjoyed it enough. I thought it was good enough. And I kind of also was reading it as like a writer, a professional who wanted to, work for the company, seeing what they were doing with Captain Marvel and thinking, could I do anything better here? Could I do something to offer to raise up Captain Marvel's status? They seem to want to raise her status, and I understand why that might be. And she's a cool character. I think I think they could do it, but I haven't seen them do it yet. And they never did it. They never succeeded with getting Captain Marvel across the plate. And that was a big problem for making a Captain Marvel movie where you erased the only things about Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers' Captain Marvel, that worked. The things about Captain Marvel that worked was she was a legacy. She was Captain Marvel, the first graphic novel, this major death featured, whatever. She was his successor. So why not tell that story? Why not take the only bit of Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers, that's working, her connection to the legacy of the original Captain Marvel? If that Captain Marvel movie had introduced Captain Marvel and had him dying in spectacular fashion and had her have to fucking rise up to take the mantle, whatever. That could have been great. You would have honored a classic comic book storyline, honored a classic character, but immediately went from a male-led story to a female-led story, which is what they were looking to do. Make no mistake, that's what they were looking to do. This was about, getting rid of white guys in spandex, even though, again, Captain Marvel isn't a white guy, as so many of these situations are. Like Superman isn't a white guy. He's actually Kryptonian. Captain Marvel, he's a Kree. But in their DEI fever, they did away with the source material that was meaningful to the audience, and they just did what they wanted to do. And the movie suffers for it big time because it's got fucking nothing going for it. It's got nothing going for it at all. They start building the world, doing world building for her and her best friend who's going to go on, and her best friend's daughter is going to be Photon, or what is that character's name, blanking out on her right now. Anyway, and then getting Miss Marvel going way too soon. Miss Marvel's a very, very young character in the comics. Now they want to shoehorn her into the Young Avengers because that's a great brand name. The Young Avengers is a great, great property that they could have fucking executed just the same as was executed in the comics. Would have been awesome. People would have loved it. Drawn by Jim Chang and written by Alan Heinberg, who was a really big writer for the OC. Back in the day, it was a very popular show on TV, and he came into comics and he wrote that series and then a follow-up miniseries about the Scarlet Witch's kids, and they're awesome. But they don't include America Chavez or Miss Marvel or Ironheart. Those are characters who came later. But by bringing all those characters into the forefront of the MCU too soon, really started to fuck up the continuity and the groups of teams and the groups of characters that people are going to be interested in seeing. America Chavez being introduced is a real problem because her powers are dimension hopping. So whenever she's on a team, all of the stories revolve around dimension hopping, or there's nothing useful for her to do. So, beginning with Captain Marvel was the beginning of Kevin Feige taking ownership of the MCU and being the guy upstairs, the little robot that She-Hulk talks to in that fucking awful series. Another series where they brought in a bunch of rando women to write She-Hulk, who had never read the She-Hulk comics, had no concept of the fact that She-Hulk was a really popular character, not just because she was fucking green with tits, but because she was an awesome character. She-Hulk, Jennifer Walters, was the girl next door. She was grateful for having been saved by her cousin, Bruce Banner. Now, not only did she have her intelligence and a good job as a lawyer, but she was a superhero. She was beautiful. She was bodacious. She was strong. She could save. She could help. And she was at this linchpin cornerstone in the Marvel Universe where she was interacting through the legal system, which gave a lot of grounding energy to the Marvel Universe. Just made it a little bit more real in some wonderful ways. Allowed writers to look at storylines and stories and little sort of caveats within stories, side effects and consequences of stories that had happened that might find themselves as a legal drama playing out in the Marvel Universe. And She-Hulk got to be right in the middle of that. I really believe that if they had executed She-Hulk lovingly with the right people, with somebody like me at the head of the writing team, that show would be on its fucking third, fourth season by now. It would be rivaling Deadpool in popularity. She-Hulk would be the single most popular character in the Marvel Universe. I really believe that. Because She-Hulk is she's really hard not to like. It's really crazy how much you fucking hate that woman, who's a perfectly fine actress, but what a terrible script. And you got her fucking telling the Hulk off. He just saved the world and hurt his arm permanently. He's fucking crippled because he saved the fucking world. And she's telling him about how, you don't really know what it's like to be a woman. You don't know what it's like to be a woman. No, I don't know what it's like to be a woman. No, you don't. That's a quote from a sketch that somebody wrote in my high school sketch comedy show a long time ago. It was very, very funny. She just kept saying, "You don't know what it's like to be a woman. You don't know what it's like." And he's like, "You're right. I don't know what it's like to be a woman." And before he even finishes the line, "What it's like to be a woman? No, you don't." And when I watched that show, I'm like, oh my God, it's that fucking comedy bit from that sketch that my friend wrote in high school, but it's not comedy. They're fucking serious. They're expecting us to take this and be sympathetic to this asshole. No. These are the ideas that have flown since Kevin Feige has been in charge. I've talked to you before about this illusory world of press releases, about the access media, and more than that, the trade magazines, the newspapers, the old school newspapers that have been there for forever, these relationships that have been there for forever. These old press places, they are in charge of spin and propaganda. They are the propaganda arm of these entertainment companies. And this past week, the freaking, what is it? I don't want to get the bit. Is it the New York Times? The Wall Street Journal. They put out an article that is a puff piece covering the ass of Kevin Feige. And he does not deserve to have his ass covered. This is all his fault. You hear me? This is all Kevin Feige's fault. He needs to be fucking ushered out of the building or forced to put the creative committee back into place. It's his fucking fault. It is not the circumstance. It's not COVID or anything else that you could point to. This article says Disney wanted more from Marvel. Now it wants less. Yeah, you want to know why it wants less? Because everything they've made since he's been put in full charge has been shit. He doesn't have anything to do with that fucking 3 Spider-Man movie. He doesn't have anything to do with fucking Deadpool and Wolverine. Other than perhaps getting out of the way in a couple meaningful ways. Thunderbolts, which came out this past weekend, and remains to be seen what's going to happen with Thunderbolts. Thunderbolts is actually, he got lucky. It's well done enough, despite the fact that it has nothing to do with any of the source material. And they've just completely called an audible. And because they've called an audible like this, I suspect it's not going to have legs. It's not going to do very well. It did a little bit less well than the last Captain America, which really was just boring as fuck. This was not boring as fuck. It was pretty good. But people like my mom and my dad, who had heard good things about it and wanted to like Thunderbolts, they went in and my mom fell asleep and my dad gave it a 6. And he's a comic book fan. He's somebody who, wants to enjoy these things. And, and they went, so now if you're dealing with a sort of a film where, depending on how much your expectations are, depending on how people prepare you for it, will depend on your enjoyment of it, that's not a good sign. And it's these fundamental things about Thunderbolts. Thunderbolts is in name only. None of these characters are the fucking Thunderbolts from the comics. This isn't the concept of the Thunderbolts from the comics. By the end of the movie, they call it the New Avengers. And right now, in desperation, they got fucking the actor playing Bucky Barnes going around replacing the Thunderbolts poster with posters that say New Avengers. Baby, it's too fucking late for that. Holy shit. And the New Avengers? The New Avengers is Spider-Man and Wolverine with Captain America and Iron Man and a whole bunch of other really fucking cool, ready for primetime players like Luke Cage. Yes, the Sentry. But dude, one member of the fucking New Avengers does not a New Avengers team make. If I said that correctly. So today I have come to you with this fucking article, which is usually behind a paywall. I got around that thanks to a friend. I should say shout out to my friend who got me the article, which is Daphne Pan. Thank you so much, Daphne. I so appreciate it, sweetheart. You are the best, the best. You know what? I didn't even realize it's see, Daphne. I love Daphne. My Daphne. Yay. So sweet. I didn't even realize as I was looking through that Daphne's the one who hooked me up. Oh, she's the best. One of my good friends, Aaron Sparrow's good friend, Daphne. She's so cool. I don't think she's doing it anymore, but she used to be one of the characters at Disneyland. She dressed up as Chip and Dale, and she would greet all the kids. So I've gone to Disney to Disneyland with her before, and because we get in for free or discounted. I don't remember if it was completely free, but anyway. So I've had a lot of fun times hanging out with Daphne in Disney. She's a big fan of Disney in general and Marvel and all this stuff, and so thank you. Shout out to you, Daphne. I'll tell you that I shouted you out later. So I was trying to get a hold of this article because I listened to multiple YouTube videos and people talking about little pieces of it, and I just wanted to fucking destroy this damn thing. So we're going to go through this Wall Street Journal article, and we're going to tear it apart, a sentence at a time, or a few sentences at a time. So the headline is, Disney wanted more from Marvel, now it wants less. Yeah, that's because everything sucked. The superhero studio is cutting back TV production and fixing its film slate after fans lost the plot. Okay, so this whole puff piece thing, they're going to admit something. They're going to sort of take on some. Oh, mistakes were made. But what mistakes are they going to say were made? Well, judging by the headline already, you should know Disney wanted more from Marvel. Oh, the mistake was Disney wanted more from Marvel. And you don't believe that if this more had been executed the right way, that they might not still be running a streak of success, the likes of which the world had never seen before? Of course they fucking would. Of course they fucking would. It is not that they made too much. It's that it was bad. This is by Ben Fritz, covering the asses of Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios and Disney. I hope you were paid well. Los Angeles. The head of Marvel Studios told colleagues recently that watching all the comic book giants' new TV shows and films had started to feel more like homework than entertainment. Yes, it did. Because it was poorly conceived, poorly thought out. Because you planned it that way. You were trying to force everybody to watch every show. You were trying to make it this weird fucking thing where, oh no, don't miss out. You better get Disney Plus. Don't you miss out. Instead of executing classic stories in classic ways and making the audience glad they came for that specific story. That's what you're supposed to do. It's called adding toys to the toy box. Each TV series is a new toy, or hopefully a whole bunch of new toys that have been added to the toy box. Their story is self-contained and meaningful to itself. Are there possibilities now possible because these toys have been added to the toy box? Yes, but no need to get ahead of ourselves. We introduce Captain America in a satisfying Captain America movie. We continue Captain America's story in a satisfying sequel. Do the same thing with Iron Man. Do the same thing with Thor. Sometimes it's better than others. And then over time, you connect these stories in subtle ways, subtle but important ways, ways that make sense, ways that will be very satisfying to those of us who have watched everything, but ways that aren't going to fuck up the entertainment experience for those who haven't. All comic book writers, comic book professionals, comic book editors know how to do this without losing the audience. Well, most of them do. Because this is comics. If every single fucking comic that Marvel put out was interconnected in totality all the time, they wouldn't sell any comics. It would be too overwhelming. In fact, sometimes crossovers and extra miniseries and extra specials and stuff can be so overwhelming that a lot of the audience will skip them. They'll do various, they'll do a big mini-series crossover kind of thing, and then they'll add all this extra shit around it. And if people are really excited about the way the extra stuff around it has been put together and the teams, or if the concepts of the big storyline are really, really good, they will sell that main storyline, and they'll sell all these supporting books, all these tie-ins to Spider-Man and Captain America. And everybody's got a 3-issue tie-in, and everyone will read it. People who weren't reading Captain America or Wolverine, they'll go jump into Wolverine and Captain America for those 3 issues because it ties into the thing, and they're interesting. But if it's too much, if it's overwhelming, they won't. They'll just read the miniseries. Or maybe they won't even read the miniseries because they find it all too overwhelming, and they'll just bail out. The comic book publishers, which, the publishers and the writers, these are the people who were on the creative committee. They know how to do this. They understand how this works. They know how to make it meaningful and wonderful and engaging, but not overwhelming to the audience to the point where it feels like fucking homework. But Kevin Feige doesn't know how to do this. The problem, they say in the Wall Street Journal, Kevin Feige acknowledged, Kevin Feige's acknowledging that there's a problem. He's not going to acknowledge the right fucking problems. Is that an effort to satisfy parent company Disney's hunger for content on its new streaming service? The studio behind the Avengers churned out too many movies and shows with interconnected stories. Nah. That wasn't the problem. I mean, the problem was the way you set up these TVs as launching points for films, which then, if it's a launching point for a film, that means it's required reading. It's required watching. That was the problem. The problem with Hawkeye wasn't that some of it was a loving adaptation of the Hawkeye series written by Matt Fraction, which was excellent. It was, by the time it ended, you were launching an Echo series, and Echo has never had a fucking series of her own until recent time when, because they're in this whole fucking DEI thing and she's a Native American and they wanted to get something like that out into the marketplace and they forced it out quickly and the audience did not go bananas over it, and the audience has not been demanding that you adapt this into a fucking TV show or film. And then when they adapted it into a TV show or film, they didn't even bother to adapt it from the comics because they knew that those comics weren't well received either. So the end of your Hawkeye series ends with the Kingpin getting shot in the face. We get the Kingpins back. Yay! From the Netflix series, the same guy, Vincent D'Onofrio, he's going to play the Kingpin. This is so amazing. Here he is. The Kingpin's back. Shot in the face. What the fuck? What? You brought him back just to make him look like a fucking tool? You brought him back to ruin the character. They did the same thing with friggin' She-Hulk. They have Daredevil doing the walk of shame because these little itty bitties, the fucking biddies, the little betties, the fucking chicks writing this shit who never read a comic book in their life, they didn't see it as completely disrespectful and undermining to have Matthew Murdock, fucking Daredevil, do the walk of shame out of the She-Hulk's fucking apartment. But it was. It was terrible. If they had stuck the landing on that Hawkeye series and let it just be about Hawkeye, if they hadn't tried to shoehorn in this full fucking Echo storyline, which Echo was introduced in Daredevil, and Echo was a cool character. I loved Echo. I really loved Echo as a character. But the way that they executed the character in the films, this butch lady that they got to fucking play Echo, she is nothing like the character of Echo. the beautiful memories that I have of Echo when she was introduced by David Mack, who's a really great comic book artist and a decent enough writer, was one, the face, the handprint, the white handprint on her face, and her elegant beauty. She was thin, like a dancer, like a ballet dancer. And I remember seeing her at the piano, and she was hitting the notes on the piano because the vibration, she could hear the vibration. The idea that we were connecting into this woman's world where she was deaf, but on some level, she was feeling the rumble of things. And this is the way she trained to be a fighter, and that she was a really good fighter and an interesting foil for Daredevil because of this her nature. Daredevil's blind and she's deaf. Echo was really cool, but they didn't introduce Echo into the Marvel Universe. They introduced some other person who's just wearing her name, just like She-Hulk. That's not Jennifer Walters. That's just some other person who body snatched her and has her name now. But that's not the character. It's not the character that we love. The deluge of material from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or MCU, on Disney Plus overwhelmed and eventually alienated viewers. It also stretched Feige and his team's resources thin, diluting the quality of their output. Marvel's box office sales, streaming popularity, and formerly untouchable position in pop culture suffered. Oh, Kevin Feige was stretched too thin. Oh, he was stretched too thin, so he couldn't give us all of his brilliant ideas that he doesn't have. Yeah, it's a problem when you have a whole creative committee that's able to look over this thing, and then it goes all down to one guy because you're a fucking egomaniac, because you're out of your fucking mind, and you're giving yourself sole credit for all the fucking success of the Marvel Universe over these years when you've had some of the most brilliant talents in the comic book medium working creatively behind the scenes to make this shit great. Honestly, this fucking article makes me sick to my stomach because of all of the people who it disses by pretending that this is the reality that we were living in. This is not the reality we are living in, Wall Street Journal. You guys are fucking idiots. Well, I shouldn't say that. You guys aren't idiots. You're paid. You're paid to be ignorant. You're paid to be stupid and say whatever the fuck they want you to say. Now Feige is leading an internal overhaul aimed at getting the studio back on track. Sorry, buddy, he's not the one. He shouldn't be leading the fucking overhaul. Marvel is making fewer TV shows. Dude, I didn't want fewer TV shows. I just wanted them to be good. With standalone stories that don't require prior knowledge of the MCU. Yeah, that was a fucking good idea in the first place. How long did it take you to friggin' figure that shit out? That's how fucking smart Kevin Feige is. Here we are 6 years later. How about this isn't anything that they've figured out? This is the fucking PR statement that they've figured out. The omission that they could make, the thing that they could say to obfuscate the truth, which is they fucking screwed the pooch. They buried the MCU through hubris and DEI being handled by writers who could not fucking handle the notion that they had to do a certain amount of checkboxes and produce something that people would want to watch. Holy shit. The first major test of his reset arrived this week with Thunderbolts. And Thunderbolts is a decent movie. But the idea that Thunderbolts is the fucking major test of the reset? Do you know how much shit is required viewing to understand Thunderbolts? Let's count the ways. Well, there's Ant-Man 2, which introduces us to Ghost. I don't know if you remember who that is. It's the chick who had like the white costume, was going intangible or whatever. Okay, Ghost, for those of you who remember. I happen to like that movie, but Ghost was a gender-swapped character from the comics who now there's this new character and she's got all this pathos and all this terrible things that she's gone through. But I don't give a fuck. She's not a character that I asked for. She's a character that they just fucking invented out of thin air. And she's okay, but she's nothing that I'm fucking losing my mind about and need to see her story continue in the Thunderbolts. Fuck off. Then you've got the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which introduces a lot. I guess you got, not introduced, but you got Bucky and you got U.S. Agent. And basically, to understand U.S. Agent and his part in the fucking Captain America mythos or whatever else, you kind of got to know Captain America, at least on some level. And, Bucky's the main character, so you could say Captain America, the second movie. Might as well watch the third one since you're watching all the Captain Americas, and they're good. But then you got to watch that Falcon and the Winter Soldier film, which sucks. Who else do we got? Oh, well, from the Black Widow movie, which was, because of COVID and blah, 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 was so unsuccessful that freaking Scarlett Johansson sued Disney, making a fucking Black Widow movie after the character's already dead in the Marvel Universe. That's a great idea, Kevin Feige. That's another Kevin Feige idea. Woohoo! Good job, buddy. And what do we get from there? We get a new Black Widow, and she's great. And we get the Red Guardian, played by Dave Harbour, and he's great. Florence Pugh, excellent. And the stupidest fucking decision of all time, the reveal of gender-swapped Taskmaster, who gets shot in the face, spoiler, in the first 10 minutes of this movie, which is like one of the greatest moments of the movie. Shot in the face, unceremoniously, and everybody just goes, yay, she's dead. We didn't want her anyway. So now it's just a costume, the Taskmaster costume. And the fucking character, I'm get his name right, fucking something Masterson, was actually a really great character, and I've read lots of comics with him in it. Tony Masterson? Who had the ability to study all, basically any character, study their fighting moves and replicate their fighting style. He's been a great character in the Deadpool comics because Deadpool was able to defeat him by being weird, not fighting in any particular style. And there's lots of interesting stories and storylines that involve Taskmaster and having to overcome this ability and him just showing up in cool ways. He's, a hood with a skull face. Taskmaster's a great character. When fans saw that Taskmaster was in that movie, we were excited. Oh yeah, finally one of the classic Marvel villains, a low-level guy, but somebody who's cool, somebody who's been in a lot of books, is coming to the Marvel Universe. And then when they took his fucking mask off and showed that it was a chick, even though the stunt man for Taskmaster was a guy, they had a fucking guy in the suit, and then they took off the fucking helmet and went, nope, fooled you, it was a woman all along. No, it wasn't. It was a guy. We've seen the fucking guy. He's credited in the credits. This isn't oh, you're so clever. This is stupid. This is lulling the audience into excitement and then pulling the carpet out from underneath them and going, nah, we're not that cool. We're not here to satisfy your cravings as a fan of Marvel Comics. We're here to do whatever the fuck we want to do. So that was nice. At least they fucking killed that one off. So what do we got? Black Widow, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. What did I miss? I said the other one before. All the Captain America movies. Or like 6, 7 fucking things that you got to watch. And this is the beginning of the internal overhaul aimed at getting the studio back on track. The first major test is a failure. Your first major test is a failure. People are going into this movie going, who's that? Who's that? Where'd they come from? And I don't think there's enough going on that's going to make them go get a Disney Plus subscription and find out who all these people are. They call it a team of sidekicks, and I think that is a really shitty fucking thing to say. Red Guardian isn't a sidekick. Red Guardian is the Captain America of Russia. Yelena is not a sidekick Black Widow. She's the Black Widow's sister. And she's a Black Widow in her own right. She could be the new Black Widow. Is Black Widow a sidekick? No. Sentry is not a fucking sidekick. Winter Soldier also is not a sidekick. He's a former sidekick. But he has been elevated to be his own man, to be his own concept, to be a badass. U.S. Agent is not a sidekick. He was the replacement mantle for Captain America for a while. He was that asshole Green Lantern, the way Guy Gardner was. He's the asshole Captain America. And often he's been written really well. And people have enjoyed reading the stories of this darker Captain America. Not a sidekick. Ghost? Not a sidekick. A gender-swapped villain. Taskmaster, not a sidekick. A gender-swapped villain. Not sidekicks. Where are they even getting this fucking sidekick thing from? Marvel is making fewer TV shows. Standalone stories don't require prior knowledge. Team of sidekicks. Has-beens and other C-listers who save the world in the Avengers. C-list? Okay. Yeah, some of these guys are C-listers. People don't know about them. But some of these guys are C-listers only because they've had less time in the marketplace. The Sentry has been the lead in some incredible stories. Ant-Man has always been a C-lister. He's got 3 movies under his belt. Granted, the third one sucks, but I quite enjoyed the first and the second one. They elevated these things. You can elevate all these things. Black Panther has been considered a fucking B-lister at least. But they've done great things with them in the comics. There are incredible Black Panther stories. And they managed to adapt the fuck out of it, and boom. Doctor Strange is a fucking C-lister. His books have never sold very well. The Doctor Strange film brought him into prominence. Thinking about these characters like they're fucking C-listers is a problem. Talking about them like they're fucking C-listers is a problem. These motherfuckers do not know how to handle the $1 trillion fucking IP that they have been given, that is the Marvel Universe. Given the reins of this fucking situation, like Kevin Feige, no, I wouldn't try to do it all myself because there's no fucking reason to. It's great to have a creative committee of brilliant people who you can get fucking feedback from, you arrogant piece of shit, Kevin. Early box office sales indicate it will open to between 70 million and 75 million in the US. No, it fell short of that. Which would put it in the lowest tier of the company's releases. Yes, it is in a low tier of the company's releases. They show us a thing here showing like sort of like the numbers for their various movies, how much money they're making and whatnot. The biggest problem is that inflation is so much that when you look at this and you go, oh, it looks like these movies are like making the same amount of money. Yes, but if you turn this making the money into ticket sales, actual ticket sales, it gets really, really embarrassing rather quickly. Because the ticket prices are so inflated, the audience is not there. The random person on the street, when they hear these numbers sound commensurate with other numbers that have been said before. But with the inflated dollar and no increase in revenue, that means the sales of tickets are going down, down, down. The what is it? The Eternals film, which was like, the beginning of the box office slump for these films. Captain America and Thunderbolts are right around the same dollar amount. And that means Eternals sold more tickets. More people saw Eternals than Captain America and fucking Thunderbolts. Oh my God. It's not even Thunderbolts. It's so silly to call it the fucking Thunderbolts. So remember that when you're looking at these numbers and you're comparing these things, go into your Chat GPT, your Perplexity or whatever, and say, hey, how do these numbers break down in terms of ticket sales, in terms of butts in the seats, in terms of viewing eyes on the screen? And you will see what the truth of the past fucking 8 years or whatever of Kevin Feige running shit. Oh my God, they're calling him Papa Feige in here. Papa Feige. I want to strangle Papa Feige. Still, reviews for Thunderbolts have been largely positive. Largely they were. But of course, most of the reviews that you see are from Access Media, who are incentivized in so many ways to review these things positively. They will sometimes go to these reviewers and they'll say, hey, could you can say anything that you want about the movie, but could you give it a C+ overall? But then, give us all your real critiques, but just give it a C+ so that we can get our numbers up a little bit. Because, if you go back and you watch my episode on Rotten Tomatoes and how Rotten Tomatoes really works, it's a cumulative idea of how many people generally gave a positive review. Positive review is over 65%. How many people said that this was over 65%? That means that if 1,000 reviewers gave it a 66%, Rotten Tomatoes would say 100% positive. That's not 100% positive. That's 100% of people didn't give it an F. That's all. That's all that means. If fans like the film, they'll likely be primed to see July's The Fantastic Four First Steps. Oh, Fantastic Four First Steps. That movie story will lead directly into a pair of Avengers sequels in 2026 and 2027 that Marvel needs to be massive hits to restore its former glory. Oh yeah, they need that shit to be massive hits. And it's so crazy, the idea that there's a Fantastic Four movie on the way, and I'm not super excited about it. You know what my feelings are? Trepidation. I have severe trepidation. There's a few dozen little different minor things that I don't love about the trailers, from the Thing's voice, and female Silver Surfer, and a ton of other little ones. Just the mere fact that this is taking place in this multiverse sort of thing, and not as a part of the Marvel Universe. I know that gave them this carte blanche to do these things in whatever ways they want to. But the Fantastic Four having a meaningful impact in the 616 Marvel Universe, that means something. You guys aren't writers, so you don't understand how myth works. We're going to leave that universe where they're all cared about. And I don't know, maybe at the end of the day, you're going to recapitulate something into a Crisis on Infinite Earths kind of thing, where all of a sudden everything will be in one universe. And if you do that, that'll be the fucking best answer to solve this multiverse problem that we've got going on. But honestly, I don't trust Kevin Feige. And I don't trust any of the people that he's hiring. A great producer is a great writer. Somebody who's capable of doing it themselves. But they recognize that it's more important to have this great writer in a position to help all of the things, to guide all of the things, to make sure that they all turn out great. Kevin Feige is a terrible fucking writer. And I do not trust any of these shorthand decisions that they're making for superficial reasons, we'd love to set it in its own little world where it had its own little aesthetic and we could make it like it was out of the 70s. And that's kind of cool, but there are other ways they could have done that too. When I see the trailer, when I see the tease for Thunderbolts, for Fantastic Four, in the Thunderbolts. I mean, especially coming out of Thunderbolts, which is this collection of ragtag characters that don't really matter to anyone in any major way, especially not them together. That doesn't matter to anyone. They've never been together. You know, it matters to me a little now because they did a good job with it for what it was, but it does not have a historical basis that audiences have been clamoring to see. The Fantastic Four does, of course, in conjunction with these other characters who are not meaningful, like them, any of these characters meeting the Fantastic Four, from Winter Soldier, U.S. Agent on down, like, I don't really care about that. Might care about Captain America and Iron Man meeting the Fantastic Four. They're both dead and old. So what's to be super excited about this interconnected universe? It's almost like you're interconnecting things in a way that makes us feel like, well, we gotta watch that if we're gonna understand this. And what were we saying earlier? That's a bad idea. That's a bad idea. Just make a great Fantastic Four movie. Feige declined requests for an interview. Of course not. This is a puff piece designed to talk about him and to answer all your questions about what's been going on wrong the whole time behind the scenes. Even though this isn't it. This isn't the fucking answer. This isn't what's been going wrong behind the scenes. This article is based on interviews with more than a dozen people who have worked at Marvel or done business with the studio. Yeah, because it's a fucking puff piece. And we got to keep Kevin's face out of this so we can have all these people talking about him in exactly the ways and terms that we want them to. So we can repurpose the whole story about what's been going on with the Marvel Cinematic Universe and perhaps get ourselves off on the right foot here. Nah. So here's the part. Papa Feige. Feige, 51 years old, is widely acknowledged as the most successful movie producer in modern Hollywood. And you know who he has to thank for it? The Marvel Creative Committee, who has been fucking fired and who he has not given credit to in the entirety of his run as the man at the fucking top. I can't even believe it. I despise this man for not giving credit where credit is fucking due. All of these brilliant creative people deserve the fucking credit for the first phases of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and why it's so great. And here he is, the lightning rod of credit, taking fucking credit and being given the credit by the corporate establishment because it's a nice little story. The same thing they do for fucking Bob Iger, Papa Iger. And he can fuck himself too. That man is creatively bankrupt. He has a great strategy, generally speaking, of working with creative people. He hires people that he thinks are right for the job and he lets them do their job. But if you're not good enough to recognize who is a good person for the fucking job, then you hire Kathleen Kennedy and you put Kevin Feige in charge all by himself. And you fucking fire John Lasseter and put the fucking Frozen lady in charge of the whole fucking Disney animated universe and Disney company in general. The decisions going on at Disney are so fucking frustrating to a fan of Disney like myself. I'm a huge fan of Disney, a huge fan of Walt, a huge fan of the fucking Imagineering and ingenuity and all the shit that has gone into this company for years and years and years. And when they bought the Muppets, I thought, yay! And when they bought Marvel, I thought, yay! And when they bought Star Wars, I thought, yay! And when they bought Pixar, I thought, yay! And within a few fucking years, I was going, oh no, oh no. Oh, no. And after I saw what they did to the Muppets, I was very nervous about what they were going to fucking do to Marvel. But I thought, well, at least this will propagate it. And perhaps they'll just let the Marvel Universe go on like it is because, everything's working. So maybe they'll just stay out of their fucking way. Nah. Let's put Kevin in charge. Let's get rid of that Marvel brain trust. We don't want all these good ideas coming at our movies every single time we make one. Good ideas, we have to adjust for those. They gave us a whole bunch of good ideas. They're saving us from ourselves. We can't let them do that. Get those people out of here. We don't want anybody saving us from ourselves. After starting as an assistant and the producer of 2000's X-Men, he was hired by Marvel that year and rose to become the final decision maker on everything from scripts to casting, editing, and visual effects. Oh yeah? You want to take credit for the visual effects now? Because they have left something to be desired. Under his guidance, Marvel released an unprecedented string of hits, including Iron Man in 2008, Guardians of the Galaxy in 2014, and Black Panther in 2018. Along the way, Marvel acquired by Disney for $4 billion in 2009. And you know what you were paying for, Disney? You were paying for that Marvel Creative Committee. And you let it go away. Its crowning achievement was 2019's Avengers Endgame, which united the storylines and characters of all 21 films that preceded it and grossed $2.8 billion, a record at the time. Do you feel the vibe of this article here? Do you feel this? This is a puff piece. Sticking out his chest. Kevin Feige, you know what he did? You know what he's responsible for? Get ready, because they're about to obfuscate why they've been failing. During Marvel's heyday in the 2010s, Feige was heavily involved in the film development. He deployed lower-ranking executives to supervise shooting, then got his hands dirty again in the editing room, often making significant changes and ordering new scenes. His longtime deputy, Louis D'Esposito, had a recurring joke, quote, "We can fix any movie if we shoot it again." Ha 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 ha! Yeah, except before you had the Marvel fucking Creative Committee who was going, "Oh God, guys, this is really going to be bad, but we can fix this." Now you've got fucking audiences coming in going, "We hate this," and then you've got nobody to tell you why they fucking hate it. So then when you go reshoot Captain America 4 3 times, you don't actually make it any better. You just water down the terrible ideas that were in it to begin with and make it a boring slog. Apparently, it was a last-minute decision to cut out fucking Taskmaster from this movie and kill her in that opening scene. Rumor is that there's more scenes with her that were cut out. Thank God for that. Oh my God. On 2013's Thor: The Dark World, there was 35 days of reshoots, longer than the entire production of many low-budget films. Yes, and I do think those reshoots helped. And that was the Marvel Creative Committee who told them to add fucking Loki into the movie more. The Marvel Creative Committee had their fucking fingerprints all over those reshoots. Though the studio had a few early duds, Feige process worked almost flawlessly for years. Oh yeah, because it wasn't him. Every film Marvel released between 2010 and 2019 was a hit, grossing an average of about $1 billion. Fans loved that each had a distinct tone, but were bound together by an overarching narrative. Yes, thanks to the Marvel Creative Committee, who made sure that you weren't closing doors. What do I mean by closing doors? I mean that these TV shows that they've made over the past bunch of years, every single one of them has closed doors to possible storylines, have fucked up, queered, made strange, made a lot less appealing existing storylines that fans were looking forward to. Places where the stories could go, doors got closed behind them. Or things were done in such an ineffectual way as to make it so it was a redundancy. Like, we're never going to get a real Thunderbolts movie. Thunderbolts was the Masters of Evil pretending to be superheroes after the good guys, the Avengers, had disappeared. And it starts out as like, we're going to trick everybody. We're going to be these heroes and we're going to fucking laugh our way to the bank. And then basically most of the good guys most of the bad guys on the team, they start to go, I don't want to be a bad guy anymore. I don't want to do that. I want to do the right thing. That's a cool story. Purely bad guys pretending to be good guys. Them being found out when they like doing good. Them having to really atone for their sins. There's so many cool things about the Thunderbolts. We're never going to get a fucking Thunderbolts movie now. There's brand confusion. What are the Thunderbolts? Apparently, it's this group of people. This group of people have never been associated with that name. And you might say, oh, Jesse, well, so-and-so, and they relaunched such and such, and she was on... Dude, no Thunderbolts team that looks like this has ever existed. Full stop. I cannot point to a graphic novel or a series where these guys were hanging out together. No one was clamoring to see these characters interact. The movies were overseen by a small team of creative executives who came to be known as the Parliament. Most have been with the company since its founding or joined as assistants and were promoted, giving Marvel a family-like culture. The Parliament has usurped the Marvel Creative Committee. This Parliament is garbage. The Parliament, that should tell you everything you want to know. A bunch of fucking suits. This is their Marvel universe, starting with Captain Marvel, skipping over Endgame, and then taking responsibility for everything thereafter. Feige was the studio's beloved, charismatic dad, a creative genius for whom everyone sought attention and approval. Oh yeah, suck my dick. I'm sure everybody was trying to get attention and approval, especially when the trades started giving him sole credit for all of the good that the Marvel Universe represented. Yeah, let's go suck Feige's dick. Feige, did you like that?
Yes, it feels very good. I'm going to go make some more shitty movies now. Because now that you've blown me, it has been confirmed that I am a Marvel movie god.
No, you're not. You're the cancer that needs to be excised. More MCU. Soon after Endgame, creative staffers began meeting in their office on the Disney studio lot to figure out where the MCU could possibly go next. In the nearby executive building, Disney's senior leadership had another priority. Okay, ready? Obfuscation of the truth. Chief Executive Bob Iger was launching Disney Plus as his answer to Netflix. He needed loads of new series for it and was counting on Marvel to provide many of them. The strategy became just expansion, said a person who worked at Marvel at the time. Yeah, because you were doing really good with the Marvel Creative Committee. But then you decided to change up the creative process for the future because you arrogantly assumed that everything good about the Marvel Cinematic Universe was your fucking fault. And it was not. Maybe you had some good ideas. I heard that you pushed really hard for the soundtrack to Guardians of the Galaxy to let James Gunn do what he wanted to do with the soundtrack. And that was a smart move. And that was the move of somebody who's a little bit more savvy when it comes to films. But getting rid of the people who cared about the source material is the stupidest thing you've ever done. And it shows what a garbage man at your job you are. If you don't know how important it is to honor the source material for your audience, you never should have been put in this position in the first place. Feige recently told colleagues he agreed to the plan because of a zealousness to tell more stories and a desire to be a, quote, excellent corporate citizen. It turned out to be a mistake. Now, veiled right there, an excellent corporate citizen. Now, DEI is being incentivized by the tippy top of money. DEI is not your friend because it is not meant to do anything good. It's meant to cause a revolution in America. It's meant to usurp the American ideals of old, to fly in the face of so many of the conservative ideals here in such a way that it literally makes us lose our minds and ultimately cause the destruction of the United States of America. I promise you. This is being mandated from the tippy top of the structure of money, not because they are altruistic at the top, but because they've crunched the numbers. They've talked to their think tanks, and this is how you bring down a great nation. You get them fighting with each other. They have weaponized the most liberal people on planet Earth. I am non-binary. I don't like to fucking call myself that. Of course, I'm a fucking man at the end of the day. I've got a dick between my legs. I was born with it. If you do something with your dick, you were still a fucking man. It's so ridiculous, the idea that I'm supposed to... No, you're a different sort of thing. You feel like a woman. That's great. I don't care. I don't mind. Do it. Be yourself. I am the biggest fucking LGBTQ advocate on planet Earth. But I do not believe that we're supposed to be going around being pushy and making the fucking conservatives, who literally think we're fucking out of our minds, forcing that shit upon them in one way or another. There's no need to do that. Live and let live is a perfectly reasonable status fucking quo. I don't understand why we're doing this. Or should I say, I do. Because they want to destroy America. We have been weaponized. People like Kevin Feige have been weaponized. They've been told that they need to be excellent corporate citizens, end quote. They're being guilted and shamed. This is the moral way. This is the moral way of the future. And the people who have been told things like this, they can't even believe how 70% of America voted for Trump. 70% of America has sniffed out what is going on here. 70% of America have said, wait a second. They're just amplifying tension. They're making the conversation worse and worse. They're ruining the entertainment in the name of forcing very specific mandates upon us all through the messaging in their films. And we don't like it. We don't like it. Even the people who are showing up don't like it. Nobody likes a boss bitch who doesn't have to work for anything in her movie. You're doing the women of the world an extreme disservice by not making their characters work for what they want. When you have somebody who shows up and just has everything handed to them, the audience doesn't like them. We have to see them struggle. We have to see them go through the paces. If you put them through tough enough paces, the audience will demand that you give them a happily ever after. But if you don't put them through enough paces, the audience will feel how they felt about Ray. She didn't deserve this. She doesn't deserve this. She hasn't worked hard enough for this. I don't understand. I don't want her to win the way I wanted Luke Skywalker to win. It hasn't been painful enough. He hasn't trained enough. She's too good at everything just naturally, out of nowhere. Excellent corporate citizen. You know what being an excellent corporate citizen really means? Helping us destroy America. The exact same way they destroyed Russia. The USSR, the fall, all that whole thing. Go talk to some people who were there. They'll tell you that the LGBTQ community, the trans community, all this stuff that is conversating and boilerplate things at the tippy top of the left's agenda, this is exactly what they did over there to destroy the country, to cause a civil war, to divide families, to divide friends, to divide a nation. And they are attempting to do it right now. They've failed. They've already failed. It's blown up in their face. That is part of why this whole fucking system came crashing down. I am sure around the time that these decisions started to be made, that Kevin Feige was approached by Illuminati, Freemasons, or whatever other secret fucking group cares about these things. And he was offered power. And he was offered status. He was offered anything he could ever want if he helped them take our myths and turn them into a weapon that could be shot into the heart of all Americans. And he did. He did it. But instead of breaking us apart, he broke the Marvel Universe. Marvel's first 2 Disney Plus shows came in 2021, the time travel adventure Loki and WandaVision, which continued the stories of 2 heroes from Endgame in a satirical sitcom world. Both were hits. Yeah, you know what? I like Loki okay, even though, honestly, I think that Loki was sort of a really weird show to do with that character. I do still think it works, and and if people were into it, and and that's great. You could do weird things, and weird things like that is cool, but there's no basis for the Loki series in comics. Not to say that the Time Variance Authority isn't in comics, but Loki isn't the character that we've explored those concepts with. So it's a weird one. WandaVision was a little bit more of a promise from things that we'd gotten in the comics. It was a combination of a lot of different storylines that we'd seen in the comics. It was something that, we kind of enjoyed and was interesting and was a promise of the Marvel Cinematic Universe moving into TV and doing some different things. Unfortunately, shortly after that, everything became just like Marvel light. Nothing else was conceptually particularly interesting. Falcon and the Winter Soldier was just like a light version of the films. And all of the other ones had been like that too. Marvel's transition from producing a few hours of movie content annually to several dozen hours of streaming shows and films eventually broke down the studio's processes. A pair of executives oversaw each show, while Feige remained the final decision maker on every significant creative issue, even though there were exponentially more decisions to make each day. Oh no, you poor bastard! Well, if that's true, you're to blame for everything. People who worked at Marvel in the early 2000s said it was challenging to secure enough time with Kevin Feige to get his feedback. I need Kevin's feedback. Why do you need Kevin's feedback? Because I've never read a comic book in my entire life, and that's why they wanted to hire me. And now I don't know if anybody's going to like any of the things that I did because I have no fucking concept of what I'm doing. Oh my God, what a terrible decision. Who made that decision? Kevin Feige. As a result, they sometimes spent weeks on work that proved irrelevant. What? That sounds like a business being really poorly run. And then once, of course, he weighed in, they found themselves with little time to implement his changes before a deadline. And as we see with Captain Marvel, whatever his fucking changes are, probably have nothing to do with the source material, because he's a fucking asshole. Desperate staffers resort to chasing Feige in the halls to get an answer. Please, Mr. Feige, Mr. Feige. Long known as one of the most frugal studios in Hollywood, Marvel began spending like crazy, as if other media companies starting streaming other media companies starting streaming services. Cost was no object in the race to impress Wall Street with big increases in subscribers. Marvel series made in the early 2020s regularly cost more than $100 million a season and sometimes approached $200 million because they included A-list actors and costly visual effects. Yes, this was a problem. Studios like Netflix and other ones, they had so much money being given to them because the investors thought that this battle of the streaming wars could be won with money. They believed that if they put enough money up front into their studio, that long term, they would be able to make all that initial investment up, and it would be made up for by the huge market share that they would take on. This didn't work for anyone, even though they all did it. And it had them spending money on absolute shit. Andor, which nobody has fucking seen. They're trying to friggin' say that it brought in all this money for friggin' people streaming Andor. Nobody watched Andor, man. I watched Andor, and I mean, like, you know, there are some, but when you go out into the world and you go talk to Star Wars fans and stuff, nobody watched it. They're like, oh yeah, I heard that was all right. Yeah, I dropped my Disney Plus subscription. I'm not going to get it. Trust me, Andor did not make back the money that they spent to make that show. And I mean, I'm glad that they spent a lot of money to make that show because I like it. But it was not worth the expenditure. None of these shows were worth the expenditure. All right, getting into Marvel fatigue. The internal dysfunction began to show in Marvel's output. Viewers complained that there was too much Marvel content to keep up with, and a growing proportion of it felt subpar. All right, not the first part, the second part. This feels subpar. There's a lot of shit, and I don't like it. That's it. There's a lot of shit. When there's a lot of shit, yeah. When there's a lot of great stuff, nobody is complaining about that. We watch the great stuff. There have been movies that have made money over these past 8 years. There have been TV shows that have made money over these past 10 years. It just hasn't been Kevin Feige's garbage because he's been making garbage. Quote, I loved it for so many years, but after all the TV shows and everything, it just started getting a little confusing and all over the place. Fans rejected big-budget event series like the alien attack drama Secret Invasion starring Samuel L. Jackson. Yeah, because it was called Secret Invasion and had nothing to do with the Secret Invasion comic book series that we loved. A series that could have been turned into a fucking awesome film, but instead was the worst of the Marvel TV series that they made and had no one of any fucking interest in it to go tune in and watch for. We don't want to see fucking Nick Fury in a Secret Invasion movie. We want to see Nick Fury in some sort of hard-boiled spy military fucking caper. There's some great Nick Fury stories that I've loved. I've read a lot of Nick Fury solo series. But it's not him starring in a sci-fi fucking thing about friggin' Skrulls impersonating people. That's not it. That's not the way. The Secret Invasion story from the comics that we loved featured every major superhero in the Marvel Universe. It was an endgame sort of event, not a stupid TV series. Shows the company was proud of, including Ms. Marvel, which had the lowest ratings of any show that they made because this character did not work in the comics. They tried to force her onto the audience multiple times. Nobody ever got behind her. The best she has done is as a side character in Champions and as a side character in Captain Marvel. Her solo series has never done well. The visual never went over well. Her powers, her big fat fists and stuff, and they changed that in the series, in the Marvels movie. It's never gone over. And they tried to force it on the audience again. Hey, this didn't go over in the comics. Let's turn it into a film. What? Why? You know, Doctor Strange he's a C-list, but he's had stories in the comics that people have liked. He's a character that people like. Ms. Marvel is not a character that people like. In theaters, Marvel's biggest hits during the period were nostalgia plays that tied up old storylines such as Spider-Man No Way Home and Deadpool and Wolverine. You fucking assholes, it's all nostalgia plays. Comic books are periodicals. They came out already. Nostalgia for that thing that came out already, that so many people read and fucking loved and has been reprinted so many times that the name Hulk and Thing go on for eternity. And to this day, fans of the Hulk and the Thing wait for these two characters to fucking slug it out on the big screen. And we've yet to get to see it. Because you're too fucking busy adapting shit that we don't want adapted and looking at Spider-Man No Way Home and Deadpool and Wolverine's success as nostalgia.
No, it's the fulfillment of the promise of adapted material. Deadpool and Wolverine have showed up in 100 comics together at least. Deadpool's origin is tied into Wolverine's. Yes, we wanted to see that. It's great. That's why we liked it. And this Spider-Man thing, I guess on some level, you could call that nostalgia. But really, it was just a matter of honoring all of the Spider-Man movies. If you're a Spider-Man fan, you're probably seeing all of them. And to get them all there at the same time, being acknowledged together, being elevated, to get that many Spider-Man villains in the same movie, to get something close to a Spider-Man versus the Sinister Six, Spider-Man versus a shitload of cool bad guys, all with interesting and unique powers. That is Spider-Man No Way Home. It was fulfilling the promise from the comics. And we even got to have a little bit of nostalgia for the Tobey Maguire, Peter Parker, and go and take a look at the the amazing Spider-Man universe that I thought really deserved its third movie. I was bummed out when Andrew Garfield didn't get his third film. And I'm still holding out hope that we may because of the success of Spider-Man No Way Home. But it seems like they can't make any sort of fucking decision on what they want to do with that success. All these years later, nothing's been done. Nothing's moved forward. Fucking idiots. They always learn the wrong things from their success. And they learn the wrong things from their failures. As this fucking piece demonstrates completely. Because there is no wisdom in anything written here. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania was critical to the MCU's future because it featured the title villain of the next planned Avengers sequel, subtitled The Kang Dynasty. But the early 2023 film flopped at the box office and was widely panned. Yeah, you want to know what a really bad idea is? To introduce your next big major league villain by having him fight against the weakest superhero in your entire universe. The one whose movies are generally feel-good laugh fests, fucking humor-based movies. Let's take that main bad guy and let's have him be defeated by the fucking least powerful superhero in the universe. Oh boy, we sure will feel that threat level rising after Ant-Man beats your bad guy. This is the level of writing ability that Kevin Feige has. It's very similar to the level of writing ability that Kathy Kennedy has. Nah, we don't need a plan for the trilogy to follow and execute flawlessly. We don't need any sort of plan. I'll just make one movie, and then I'll make the next movie, and then I'll make the third movie. I don't need to stick the landing. I don't need to plan long term for how this is going to be. It'll all work out. So now it says, employees talked regularly about Marvel fatigue. No, bad Marvel fatigue. Bad writing fatigue. There's no Marvel fatigue. There's Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Doctor Who, Star Trek, Star Wars. Every fucking property of the geek culture has been taken over by these corporate interests who frickin' inducted frickin' Kevin Feige in a secret fucking room and probably put a penis up his fucking butt to do it. These are the corporate interests that are killing the creativity. And then these fucking assholes come up with terms like Marvel fatigue. No, there's no Marvel fatigue. There is bad writing fatigue. I talked about this before. The death of the Western was not the death of people's interest in Westerns. It was the death of the way Westerns were handled. The writers, a gaggle of fucking depressed, shitty people, probably led by the tippy top of this disillusioned power structure who didn't like all these white cowboys riding in on their horses and saving the day. And then all of a sudden, all of our fucking cowboy heroes were alcoholic wife beaters with dark pasts. They were all anti-heroes. There were no good guys anymore. Audiences love good guys.
And when you start to dilute the purity of the fucking good guys riding in on their horse and doing a good thing, and you start to make it about all this fucking cultural politics and female empowerment and DEI stuff, as opposed to all of these diverse people who are being included, being treated like heroes, just like any other fucking hero of old, being written that way. Not with all this weird fucking politics underneath the surface, but just being given the same fucking treatment that the heroes of old were given yesterday. That is when the audience is happy. Not this. Not when you derail the entirety of the storytelling and the narrative so you can just fucking force in this diversity and the sexual politics, the way we want them said, the way we want them talked about. People could smell that from a mile away. It's inorganic. True art is organic. If you're going to create things like this, be prepared to fail miserably. Meanwhile, Wall Street's obsession with streaming growth gave way to a focus on profitability. Iger and Feige began scrutinizing Marvel's costs and creative choices more closely. At the last second, Marvel decided the script for its vampire movie Blade wasn't good enough and halted production in 2023 while equipment was being shipped to sound stages in Atlanta. Now, you want me to tell you what the real fucking problem with the Blade script was? First of all, they replaced Wesley Snipes when there was no need to, especially with the story that they were going to tell. The story they were going to tell was going to hand the mantle of Blade to his daughter. Not a character from the comics that anybody gives a fuck about. We love Blade. He's the one that started it all. One of my biggest pitches as a comic book writer to Marvel that I ever did was a Blade pitch. I ended up getting usurped because it took too long for the pitch, which was very, very highly regarded within the editorial staff. I forget where Mark Paniccia, I forget which office he was in, but I had handed it to him, and it took like a year for it to get brought up at a Marvel Creative Committee. And basically, Blade had already been taken by the X-Men office, and they were doing this big Blade X-Men crossover, which was a fucking mistake. It was not a success, didn't do anything for Blade. I think really hurt, I think just fucking hurt the X-Men, just convoluted shit. Wasn't a good idea. But I had a pitch that was lovingly based on the films. Lovingly based on taking what was great about the films, distilling it into comic book form, and injecting that Blade back into the comics so that they could use that character. Because New Line owned Whistler, I created a character named Hummer who was like in a similar sort of position. And my pitch was called Blade and the Daystalkers. What kind of idiots stalk vampires at night? It's supposed to be a quote from Hannibal King on the cover. It was a very, very easy to pitch to fans book. It was really well done, and it came from a place of love. Came from a place of loving those movies. If you love those movies, your first choice isn't to replace Blade with his daughter. I don't think having Wesley Snipes be Blade and then replacing with his daughter would have went over well. But I also don't think replacing fucking Wesley Snipes with Mashallah Ali and then having him get replaced by his daughter at the end of the Blade movie is a fucking good idea either. Hey, we're going to introduce a Blade movie so we can kill Blade and give you a different Blade that you don't want. What the actual fuck? So no, that script wasn't very good. And rumors of what that script was about had been leaking out for a very long time, to which everybody said, what? What? That's your fucking plan for Blade? Are you out of your mind? When production started on the 2023 film The Marvels, the filmmakers got little attention from the overstretched Feige. After Quantumania bombed, Feige became more involved, hoping to avoid a second faceplant in 1 year. The filmmakers cycled through dozens of versions of a voiceover to catch up viewers with plot points from past movies and series they needed to understand, but it wasn't enough. The Marvels, which cost around $300 million, was Marvel's biggest ever bomb, grossing just $206 million. Oh, you poor babies. 300 fucking million they spent on the Marvels. There is no need to spend this much money on these fucking movies. Thunderbolts has a slightly more modest budget and it is succeeding plenty with the fucking special effects and whatever other else. These movies are scaled out of proportion so that people can skim money off the top. These movies and these movie studios, the bigger the movie, the bigger the studio, the budgets get bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's so people can steal from the productions. So people can charge prices that are completely unreasonable for the work they are doing. It is always possible to make movies for cheaper. If your budget is just lower, your budget is lower. And people accept what your budget is. But when you give it the $300 million oh man, the money just fucking disappears into oblivion. Never to be seen or heard from again. Certainly not to show up on the fucking screen. More doom, less gloom, getting towards the end here. Since Marvel's early years, Feige Parliament has gone to a retreat every fall in Palm Springs, California, where they would plan out the future of the MCU. Feige's fucking Parliament. Keep in mind, the creative committee and Parliament are different things. That's why they're calling it Parliament now, because it's not the creative committee. Since the early years, it was the creative committee. Parliament is what's left. The fucking suits. The suits who don't know shit about Shinola. The get-together in 2023 was somber. Many of Marvel's movies and TV shows weren't working. The studio had just laid off employees for the first time in its history. Parliament members discussed whether they could salvage plans for Avengers Kang Dynasty. They also talked about a new TV strategy in which shows would have plots divorced from the MCU, making them easier for new fans to understand. Oh, you think that's a good idea now? 8 years later? How many fucking years later do you have to fucking figure that out when the entirety of the fucking YouTube entertainment experience has been saying this shit to you for frickin' years? Doomcock, Nerdrotic, Midnight's Edge, and so many more have been spelling out to you what you've been fucking doing wrong. And what did you do? You demonized us all. You said we were fucking racist and sexist and phobes. No, we were telling you how you were fucking everything up. We were helping you to perhaps change course, save yourself some fucking money, and make yourselves again what you were a moment ago, and now have squandered by not listening to the audience. The company decided to cut back significantly on TV production. Quantity, in our case, diluted quality. And Marvel has suffered greatly from that, Iger said at the New York Times Deal Book Summit that November. Marvel's releasing only 1 or 2 live-action streaming series annually starting next year. And it's not gonna fucking matter. They're all gonna suck. We've still got fucking Ironheart on deck. Ironheart. A show that should not have been fucking made, a character that should not have been introduced so soon, a character that has not been a particular success in the comics. Some of the greatest comics ever made do not feature Ironheart. Yet you own some of these characters, some of these comics, some of the greatest stories ever told, and you're not producing them. What are you thinking? You're thinking with your DEIs. That's what you're thinking. And you're thinking so hard in that direction that you aren't even capable of turning these DEI-directed projects into anything worth anyone seeing. You're doing a disservice to the women, you're doing a disservice to the minorities, and you're doing a disservice to the LGBTQ community, my community. You're not putting us in the movies and making it just like everybody else. You're putting us in the movies and you're having to fucking make it like we're so different. We're not so different. We're all the fucking same. And every single time you go out of your way to be like, look, they're gay, you're just fucking turning it into a sore thumb. Who gives a shit that they're gay? It doesn't matter what they're fucking. It matters who they're saving. It matters how they're saving them. It matters what sort of difficulty they're going through, not who they like to fuck at night. Marvel's releasing only 1 or 2 live-action Marvel's top priority is ensuring the next 2 Avengers extend the track record of the franchise, which has provided 4 of the company's 5 highest-grossing films. Around early 2024, executives decided to dump Kang and start brainstorming who would make a better antagonist for their next superhero team-up. Feige had been talking for more than a year to Robert Downey Jr., who played Iron Man, and was beloved by fans. But returning to the MCU, they discussed his playing Doctor Doom, one of the Marvel's best-known comic book villains, but they hadn't determined when or in what film. This is a stupid Hail Mary pass. Fans want to see Doctor Doom. A Tony Stark Doctor Doom is not Doctor Doom. It's an evil Iron Man. Just like Thunderbolts, you're wasting Doctor Doom by using his name and confusing what it means. Half the fucking people who see the advertisements for this aren't going to fucking know what to make of it. Bringing back Iron Man as a bad guy is not a great a flex as you think it is. We don't want to see the fucking good guy cowboy brought back as a bad guy cowboy. Marvel executives concluded that Downey was the solution to their Avengers problem. They retitled the 2026 movie Avengers Doomsday with their biggest star in the title role. Feige also rehired Anthony and Joe Russo, who directed Downey in Avengers Endgame. That's a good idea. Bringing back the talent behind a blockbuster for a sequel in one of the most expensive propositions in Hollywood, but people who have worked with Feige say he likes to go back to people he trusts, particularly in moments of urgency. Oh yeah, it's a moment of urgency, but you are not the creative dynamo who you claim to be, and you are not capable of pulling the nose of this plane up. To get fans excited about the new plan, Marvel had Downey take off a Doctor Doom mask and reveal himself at the San Diego Comic-Con in 2024. And was it viral? Was it a big deal? Yeah. But it was met with a lot of confusion and a lot of wait and see and a lot of, I don't know about that. But not according to the Wall Street Journal. Quote, I saw the whole announcement, and not to exaggerate, I fell to my knees, said Bailey Bowen, a 25-year-old plant of the entertainment industry. She's an old teacher's aide. An old teacher's aide. I fell to my knees, said while peeking at the red carpet for the Thunderbolts premiere in Hollywood Monday. In his introduction to the screening that night, Thunderbolts director Jake Schreier said, when I first started on the movie, Kevin said, make it different. This weekend's box office receipts will show whether that's what Marvel fans want. In many ways, Marvel has reverted to its strategy from before the streaming boom, as if the past 5 years had been a bad dream, and they were. As he did when Marvel Studios started, Feige has an expansive vision for this company's big screen future. The upcoming Avengers movies are expected to introduce the X-Men, one of the Marvel's most popular superhero teams, to the MCU. Feige has told colleagues he has a 10-year plan for the characters. The end. Feige has told colleagues he has a 10-year plan for the characters. Yes, a 10-year plan that the audience doesn't want to see. Why would we? Why would we want to see his 10-year plan based on these past 5 years, based on all of the rumors, based on all of the things that had to be reshot because they were that much worse? And then the movie comes out and it's still terrible, despite reshoots. They are still spending too much on the wrong ideas They are still not honoring the source material. In fact, I would say they are dishonoring the source material every step of the way. The new Marvel phase of things that we're about to move in is nostalgia bait. That's what they learned from Spider-Man No Way Home and from Deadpool Wolverine. They learned that they have had successful properties in the past and that these characters are still beloved. And that if they can take some of these characters and mix them with the characters that people love in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that there would be some interest there. Yes, there will be some interest there. But if you're not capable of executing this stuff well, it's not going to mean anything long term. These movies are going to have moments of excellence, but they're going to be terrible movies. They're going to be terrible sagas. And they're not going to lead anywhere the audience wants to go. I'm Jesse Blaze Snider. Fuck Kevin Feige. Fuck him taking all the credit. Fuck him never coming out and saying, hey, this isn't all me. In fact, the Marvel Creative Committee is largely responsible for so much of the things that fans have noticed about the Marvel Cinematic Universe giving a fuck about its audience. I didn't give enough of a fuck about the audience, and I lost the audience. I'm bringing back the Marvel Creative Committee so that they can make Marvel great again. But no, you're not going to hear that. You will probably hear a lot more propaganda. You will probably see a lot more puff pieces written with his fucking name all over it, speaking his praises and blaming everything but him for the state of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But there is only one person to blame, and his name is Kevin Feige. I'm Jesse Blaze Snider, the Coolest Geek Alive. I hope you will join me on Saturday for a Coolest Pick. I don't know what I'm doing this weekend. Might actually I'm watching a series that I really enjoy called Misfits. It's a British show, fucking awesome. Might do an episode on that one. But yeah, also every Monday I do my show, Everything They Don't Want You to Know. This past week, we did it on the suffering industrial complex from homelessness, war, fucking debt, slavery, everything. It's really an all-encompassing episode, which is rather mind-blowing, I think. I just, I felt great about doing it, and I really hope a lot of you guys take your time to listen to it. So go out there, check that out. And of course, All Your Favorite Bands Suck, my music show, which used to be my Monday show. 55 episodes of that are still available everywhere you can find your podcast, except for Spotify, because Spotify's a dick. But that show will be coming back pretty soon. And I've got a new book. It's a magazine. It's called Sugar and Bones Magazine. I've written a number of stories in it, but also there's stuff by my buddy Digger Mesh, stuff by my friend Aaron Sparrow. I got artists like Steve Kurth and Todd Blackwood, and really just amazing people working on this book. It's not just a comic book anthology, it's also a magazine. And I really hope you guys will check it out. You can go to bldsts.com, which stands for Blacklight District Studios.com, bldsts.com, and you can sign up for notifications for when the book goes live. Right now, it's up on Kickstarter in name only. You can find it if you put it into a search, and you can sign up through Kickstarter for notifications as well. Anyway, I love you. Thank you so much for supporting me and everything that I do. And I hope you'll join me again next Wednesday for another fucking awesome episode of the Coolest Geek Alive. Love you.
You've been listening to Coolest Geek Alive with me, your host, Jesse Blaze Snider. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe for more excellent geek culture content. Thanks for listening.
It's my favorite part. Isn't that heavy? I played that. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Coolest alive. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Stay with your tribe. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Revenge of the Geeks. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Week after weeks. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Laughing with you. It's gonna be fucking awesome. And crying sometimes too. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Spelling it be fucking awesome. Making you shout. I'm a genius. I got lyrics coming out me bum for days. You like that? It's a kazoo solo. I played that too. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Talking some shit. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Living the shit. My voice is fucking awesome. Food in our mouth. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Get in the mouth. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Tell all your friends. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Call right or text. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Raising the bar. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Straight to the stars. It's gonna be fucking awesome. It's starting soon. Straight to the top. Passing the moon. It's gonna be fucking awesome. On with the show. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Ready, set, go.
It's going to be fucking awesome. Fucking awesome. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Just wait. You'll see. You'll all see.
The podcast playground. Hooray!